Hello YouTube, my name is Tyler and this is my June reading wrap-up. June has been another kind of a flop of a reading month, so there will not be a week 4 reading vlog, so I will give those reviews when I reach it when talking about the books that I have read this month. I am also racing the clock. I am trying to do this between AC blowing increments, I guess. I don't know what you would call it. So hopefully I can keep this quick. All right, so in June, I read 15 books. I read Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, which I gave 5 stars, and Lie With Me by Philippe Besson, and translated by Molly Ringwald, which I gave 3 stars. I read those in the first week. I also read Gideon Falls 5 and 6, which I think I gave 4 stars and 3 stars. I read Quilt Making by Hand by Ginny Bayer, which I gave 3 stars. Lapvona by Otessa Moshfegh, I gave 3 stars. Roughneck by Jeff Lemire, I gave 4 stars. Small Fry by Lisa Brennan Jobs, I gave 4 stars. The White Mosque by Sophia Samatar, 2 stars. The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead, 2 stars. Ace, What Asexuality Reveals About Desire, Society, and the Meaning of Sex by Angela Chen, 4 stars. And then the books I have not talked about. Nupaming, The Cure for White Ladies by Leanne Bella Samasake Simpson, I gave that 4 stars. This was told in a very weird way that I didn't truly fully understand. I listened to it as an audiobook. It was only 3 hours, but the writing was easy enough to listen to, and then there was kind of like an extended story metaphor about geese preparing to migrate and what made the decision for some geese to migrate versus stay, and it's kind of this like metaphor for indigenous tribes and deciding whether they're going to continue this like traditional migration route, things like that. Really enjoyed that story. So I ended up giving it a 3.5 because I just liked that story so much, and it got rounded up to a 4. 2120 by George Walsall, I gave this 4 stars. This was a very weird kind of like escape the room type of choose your own adventure story, told kind of in a graphic novel form. There's like a little bit of plot, but it's not a book. Like, it's not a novel, it's not a story, it's not like a beginning, middle, and end necessarily. It's very much like a game in a book. So it was fun, but like there's not a whole lot to say about it. If that sounds like intriguing to you, where you are like trying to escape this room you got locked in, go for it. It was fun. There was puzzles, things like that. Uncultured by Daniela Mestianek Young, I gave this 4 stars. I listened to this. This was a memoir about a girl who grew up in the Children of God cult, and she escaped. She graduated high school, and then she ended up going into the army, and she talked a lot about the similarities in the cult mindset of the Children of God and the army. It was really interesting. I didn't read the full like summary when I picked it up, so I was just expecting her to talk about like the Children of God. So the whole military aspect, I was not expecting at all, but it was just really interesting. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And then I finally started rereading Yowamushi Pedal, so I finished the first volume of that because I finally was able to get my hands on volume 3, so I couldn't remember what happened, so I have started rereading that so I can finally read volume 3. And that was the last thing I read in June. I will talk about Yowamushi Pedal when I finish volume 3. So those were the 15 books I read. Let's flip to some stats, I suppose. Of those 15 books, 13 came from the library. I listened to 5 audiobooks. I DNF'd 1 book, which was The Saturday Night Ghost Club by Craig Davidson. I just could not get into it. It was not hitting the spot that I wanted it to. I was expecting it to be kind of like Pen Pal by Dathan Arbach. That's what I was expecting, and it just was like not. It was more wholesome, I guess. So I just let it go. I also temporarily DNF'd Leech, but I came back to it and I ended up finishing it, but technically I finished it in July. So there is that. For my TBR stats, I read 8 books off my Goodreads TBR and 1 book off my physical TBR. However, I am working on 2 books from my physical TBR, which are The Season of Migration to the North by Tayeb Saleh and Abolition Geography by Ruth Wilson Gilmore. I'm just going very slowly on both of those. So yeah, I'm still working on both of those. I think that was all those stats. I did read one Indigenous author this month, which was Leanne Simpson. I will not butcher their middle name again. So that was the one Indigenous author I read this month. My other TBR stats are, last month I finished my Goodreads TBR at 112, and this month I have finished at 110. So that number keeps trickling down, which I'm glad, because even though this month has been a difficult reading month, at least I am still tackling my TBR in some form or fashion. And then my physical TBR went from 15 to 17, or if you take off the books I am currently working on, it's 15. So not a lot of movement there, but I did buy 2 books. Actually, technically 3 books got added to the TBR, which is Yawamushi Pedal Volume 3. So that will be going soon in July. That will be marked off. And then I picked up Tender is the Flesh because, I don't know, I just wanted to. And then I picked up a book called Body Horror, which is a nonfiction book about, I think it is like about body horror, but also like the ways like capitalism and misogyny attempt to control our bodies, police our bodies, things like that. So I thought that would be an interesting little read. So those are the TBR stats. It took about a week for me to read a book, which makes sense. I read a lot of stuff just so slowly because like there's just not a lot that has really been making me want to keep reading. So a slow read. This month my star rating average ended up being 3.6, which is the 3rd month in a row. It is also the 3rd month in a row I have read 15 books. Which brings me to, I do not think I'm going to vlog in July. July is my birthday month, and while I don't have like a ton of plans, I am definitely in a reading slump. Summer traditionally tends to be my slowest reading time in general, but the last 2 summers have been more highly productive than usual, and I'm definitely feeling the need for a little bit of a break, especially because editing is just kind of exhausting. Like it's not my favorite thing to do, and it's not like I am doing some masterful editing for this channel, but I'm definitely just kind of feeling a little bit burnt out. So I'm not going to vlog this month. So there will be no videos in July unless something spectacular happens that I feel the need to record. So the next video you'll probably see is my July wrap up, and I'll talk about all the things I read in that. I will touch on the books that I am currently reading. Like I said, I did finish Leech. I finished it yesterday, which was technically July, so I'll talk about that in the wrap up. I am currently reading the 2nd volume of Yawamushi Pedal, Abolition Geography and Season of Migration to the North Like I talked about, both of those are on my physical TBR. I'm working on them. And then the other thing is She Who Became the Sun. I started reading that digitally, but I was struggling a little bit with the writing. It's very stilted, maybe. I don't know. There's something about the writing that like I just don't quite like. But I did check out the audiobook. So hopefully I'll be finishing that soon. I haven't actually started the audiobook yet. But I am hopeful that that will be a win and I will be able to finish this story. And if I like the audiobook enough, I will probably listen to the second book too, whenever that comes out. So those are the things I'm reading. Yeah, that is what June has been like. I think the AC is about to kick on. And if that's the case, I timed it perfectly. There it is. All right, I'll see y'all in a month. Bye!